Khalifa al-Hakim said, Al-Hazan, where is the result of your grand project? Didn't you promise a way to control the Nile? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi my friends, thanks for tuning my channel. I'm Maya Arhila, your Islamic storyteller. Today, I want to take you to a journey far into the past, tracing the footsteps of one of the greatest thinkers the Muslim world has ever seen. Being a Muslim scientist is truly amazing. This scholar beautifully blends deep faith with sharp intellect to bring light to the world. To be honest, I am still exploring many of the sources, but what I have learned so far is truly wonderful. If you want to dive deeper, I have the references and strongly encourage you to check them out too. This story is inspired by various biographical narratives, especially his monumental work, Kitab al-Manazir, the Book of Optics. Through his research, Ibnu al-Haytham showed us how faith, reason, and experimentation can come together to reveal the grandeur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creation. He was in every sense a true seeker of truth. One of his most powerful statements was this: the seeker of truth is not the one who merely studies the writing of the ancients and following his natural inclination, accept them as they are. Rather, he is the one who withholds, he certainly approaches those writing with doubt and question everything he finds. He submits to evidence and demonstration, not to the words of man, whose very nature is filled with shortcomings. Ibnu al-Haytham started his story in Basra. Our story begins around the year 965 CE, 10th century, when a boy named Abu Ali Muhammad al-Hassan bin al-Haytham was born in Basra, a major center of knowledge in the Abbasiyah era, was where Ibn al-Haytham was born into a family of scholars. He even served briefly as a judge, but soon realized his heart wasn't in government work. He left his position to devote his life entirely to science. He passed away in Cairo around 1040 CE. This dedication led him to a noble mission. This is the core of his intellectual journey. At the time, many believed the eye emit ray to see, but Ibn al-Haytham questioned this. If the eye sends out light, why we can't see anything in complete darkness? Driven by this curiosity, he didn't just speculate, he began a series of experiments. From his careful studies, he discovered something revolutionary, that light actually travels into the eye from object, not the other way around. This idea is known as the intromission theory, and it completely changed how people understood vision. Because of this systematic and detailed experiment, Ibn al-Haytham is often said as the pioneer of the modern scientific method in the study of light and optics. Now, the journey from the light of the eye to the flow of the Nile. For Ibn al-Haytham, physics, mathematics, and astronomy were not just sciences. They were a way to practice tadabbur, contemplation of the order and wonder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creation. He argued that logic alone wasn't enough to understand creation. He insists that every hypothesis must be tested through structured experiment and measured with mathematical precision. This systematic approach is what we know today as the scientific method. He didn't just study light in the lab. He looked for its trace in nature. He explained phenomena like primary illumination and atmospheric refraction. the effect that paints our sky with dawn and twilight. Through precise calculation, he could even determine the exact moment dawn begins, long before modern instruments exist. These studies were compiled in his impressive work, Mizan al-Hikmah, The Balance of Wisdom. One of the most defining chapters of his life began when he traveled in Egypt. There, he proposed an ambitious idea, a plan to control the flow of the Nile to protect people from both drought and devastating floods. His reputation soon reached Khalifa al-Hakim of the Fatimid Caliphate in Cairo. The Khalifa al-Hakim invited him, hoping Ibn al-Haytham could turn this bold vision into reality. With optimism in his heart, Ibn al-Haytham journeyed south toward Aswan and began studying the site. But after examining the land closely, he was stunned. He realized that the tools and technology of this time were far too limited to carry out a project of such enormous scale. Returning to Cairo, he had to deliver the bad news to a ruler known for being cruel and unpredictable. Ibn al-Haytham knew his life was at risk. He faced the Caliph. Khalifa al-Hakim said, "Al-Hazan, where is the result of your grand project? Didn't you promise a way to control the Nile?" Khalifa al-Hakim heard Ibn al-Haytham's admission of failure. He was enraged. But Ibn al-Haytham had anticipated this. To protect his life and to ensure he could continue pursuing knowledge, he took a drastic yet brilliant step. He pretended to be insane, acting unpredictable in front of the Caliph. Instead of being executed, he was placed under strict house arrest in Cairo, where he remained until the Caliph passed away. And through this episode, one thing became clear. His pursuit of knowledge was never for recognition or power, but for the benefit of humanity. The wave of his discoveries carried far beyond his own time, and yet this year of confinement turned into the most fruitful period of his life. In that quiet solitude, he craved his greatest kitab al-Manazir, the book of optics. To confined, Ibn al-Haytham remained a traveler, not across land but through the vast landscape of ideas. His mind kept moving, exploring and reshaping the world of science. In Cairo, the city became his open laboratory. There, he wrestled with challenging questions like the Al-Hazan problem, how light reflects from a curved mirror, and he produced some of the most detailed early description of the human eye. And then he challenged the old Greek theories with reason and direct experimentation, bringing a fresh spirit of inquiry into the world of science. Light and vision captivate him. His curiosity eventually led him to build a small dark room, the camera obscura. Inside that quiet space, he observed how light traveled in straight lines, and he became the first to recall the fundamental principles of the pinhole camera. It was a simple experiment, yet far ahead of its time. A small discovery that would one day become the foundation of modern photography. His careful study of lens, which he called burning glasses, revealed how convex surfaces could enlarge image. The way he explained their mathematical and optical behavior later became the theoretical groundwork that European scholars used centuries afterward to design the first eyeglasses to correct human vision. His search for truth never ends. He even questioned the great astronomical ideas of his age. In Kitab al-Sukub ala Bathlamius, though concerning Ptolemy, he boldly challenged the long-accepted geocentric model, arguing that it did not stand on solid reasoning. He stood apart, guided not by tradition, but by logic, observation, and a deep belief that truth is something to be tasted, never simple inherited. His work translated into Latin as the Aspectibus heavily influenced European thinkers like Roger Bacon and Johannes Kepler, sparking a new way of seeing not just light but knowledge itself. Ibn al-Haytham spent most of his later life in Cairo, dedicated to knowledge, writing, and copying books, although he is estimated to have written over 100 works covering optics, mathematics, astronomy, and mechanics. Only about 50 to 60 works have survived to this day. His legacy is not a map of physical journeys, but the scientific method and the foundation of the science of optics that transformed to the world. My friends, what can we learn from Ibn al-Haytham? That learning itself is an act of worship, but it must be done with honesty, logic, and concrete proof. The most meaningful journey isn't the one we take with our feel, but the one we take with our minds. As we try to see the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the harmony of His creation. I hope our journey through these amazing science stories has given you new insight and deeper gratitude. So to recap, what are the main legacies we discussed from Ibn al-Haytham? We have the information theory, the camera obscura, the experimental scientific method, the Alhazen problem, his critique of the Ptolemaic model, and the theoretical basis for the invention of a glass. If you found anything wrong or want to add anything, let's chat in the comment section. Your support means a lot, so don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons and share this video with your friends. See you in the next story. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.